Welcome to Invercargill in New Zealand's deep south, home of cycling Southland and a region rich in scenery and character. For the past 58 years, Invercargill has opened its doors to a small army of elite cycling teams who descend on the region for one of the biggest and toughest races on the New Zealand cycle racing calendar. Across 7 stages and 900 kilometres, the cyclists will face everything the roads, terrain and weather of Southland can throw at them. At the end of the week, the best will take home the titles and the jerseys money can't buy. This is the 2014 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. The dark clouds loomed ominously as the tour departed from Invercargill on day 2 of the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. As soon as the flag dropped, the combat was on, and before long a group of 10 riders cleared out from the peloton. In amongst the leaders was the familiar face of Jacob Grieve from day 1. By the end of the day, the Pure South rider would have amassed enough sprint points to lead the sprint ace. The Avanti racing team were out to make amends for yesterday's disappointing showing by placing 2 riders into the break, which hovered for the majority of the stage at around 3.5 minutes. With the notorious Bluff Hill finish fast approaching and a stage win a realistic possibility for the Breakaway, the peloton shifted gear. By the base of the hill, they were within 150 metres of the leaders. Despite the huge effort of being out front all day long, Australian Ben Hill was not about to be stopped. He rode clear to secure his second stage victory in as many days and grab the ultimate prize, the yellow jersey. Stage 3 of the SBS Bank Tour of Southland showcases the natural beauty right on the doorstep of Invercargill. Beginning with the stunning surf beaches and coastline west of the city, the day ends in the alpine lake town of Te Anau, gateway to Milford Sound and the Fiordland World Heritage Area.
This is one of the stages I've been targeting, so I'm going to try to get over Blackmount because it should all split up after then, and then look for maybe stage 1, top 5 at the finish. That's what I've been looking for today.
Time's running out, so it's time to light it up and see what these legs can really do and see what can get out of this tour and let's go from there.
I think there'll be a lot of guys trying to get up the road to get in the break today, so it should be a good fun day.
The key points of the stage are the route through the coast from Riverton, which on a good day is one of the best bicycle rides you can have, and on a windy day is probably one of the hardest ones you'll have.
After that, it settles down and it's just long straights. The thick chip, of course, of the Southland roads to deal with those winter months.
I know myself, the Blackmount climb is such a tough hill and it comes at such an end point in the race.
You've got to be attentive and alert on those moves that could possibly go over Blackmount, because with the fast run into Te Anau, they could very easily stay away.
I think today our team's going to be looking for that break and try and get a rider up the road.
This year's tour is actually going to be decided on that Blackmount climb. If a break can get away and then stay away, I think today's probably going to be one of the pivotal days in the whole tour today.
Here we are on our 3rd day of this year's tour. Blue skies greeting the riders as they make their way along the neutral section here out of Riverton.
Riverton, the Riviera of the South, Julian. There'll be some very happy bike riders this morning rolling out of Riverton here. These conditions, not so much the sun but more so the wind, will be very pleasing for these riders heading out over this huge stage to Te Anau.
We see the man in the yellow, the Australian, of course, Ben Hill. He's taken out 2 stages already in this year's tour. As they depart out of Riverton here, things fairly cool, calm and collected as they approach the first of the climbs of the day.
Yeah, the first climb of the day comes out of Riverton, the Longwoods Hill. It's a bit of a step and steer job. You can see the race has just picked up in pace. We've got a Kia Motors Ascot Park team member here. It looks like Fraser Goff at the front. He is really pouring on the pace here. This is a fast start again.
Yes, it's the men from LMN Group Racing, Rico there, that are trying to shut down the gap. Of course, with the hill points up for grabs, they may well be trying to get one of their guys up there. Grayson Napier, the man just giving Liam Aitchison a bit of a nudge. Of course, the former winner of it from last year.
Yeah, this is the start of the climb itself up the Longwoods. Not a hard climb, Julian, but we are getting further on into this race, and every day compounds from a fatigue point of view, and these riders will really relish getting up this climb and getting over the top on the way through to Colac Bay.
you're right, in terms of climbing, it doesn't rate that high there. Of course, all the climbs this year are categorised as they were last year, and they've got the big black mount later in the day, which will be a Cat 1. But here we have last year's defending champion getting himself some points early on. He's had a fairly quiet race so far in this tour.
Yeah, he's had a quiet race by his own standards, and he's keen to get out on the attack. Grayson Napier last year really showed us what he could do.
Grayson's a great example of these young up-and-comers here in this year's tour. As we've seen over the last couple of years, a bit of a changing of the guard. Here we have the main peloton now descending down towards the coastal area. You can see it's quite unfamiliar territory here, Doug. It's very cool, warm conditions I should say, and the water's looking pretty smooth out there. These guys are in for a nice day out on the bike.
This is just fantastic conditions along the coast. This is the sort of day you really do want to ride your bike out along the southern scenic route, and this is one out of the box. It is a very lumpy road though. There's a lot of climbs along here, little ones as we can see. This is a flat piece along the way before we start hitting a few of the lumps and bumps before we get to Irapuki. A lot of the riders you can see here using this period as a refuel.
Some 18 teams, of course, involved in this year's tour, and great to see a lot of new teams involved in the tour for the 2014 edition. And of course, some have had a bit of a name change, and of course, the Avanti racing team, one of the strongest on paper, and they're led there with Taylor Goodman, a man who was second in last year's tour.
To be honest, I was happy. It was most unexpected in all reality. I turned up to the race debut for Genesis, or now Avanti, and you know, we're looking to actually support Joe for the win, and I was looking after myself and putting myself in a position to ride strong for the team. The stars aligned on the Coronet day for myself personally, and you know, to lose a tour by 12 seconds or so was a bit gut-wrenching, but you know, we made the best of the situation we were in. So Avanti Racing has been registered in New Zealand next year, which is a huge opening for New Zealand cycling. You know, the team has to take on 9 Kiwis, or a 60% majority. So there's 9 careers for Kiwis that probably might not have been there. It's not about being a Tour de France team, it's about producing Tour de France riders for the big team. So, you know, everything's realistic, achievable, and it's there for the long term. This year's team, so we have Joe Cooper and Tom Robinson returning from last year's squad. This year we have Aaron Donnelly. He's our big, strong driver on the front. He seems to pull the pelotons along every year. Also, we've brought Mitch Lovelock-Fay, who's also, to us, a secret wild card, another card we can play for the overall win. Also, we have Neil van der Ploeg. He's a bit of a laugh, quite a character on the team, and a strong personality. But puts smiles on our faces and keeps the team morale high, and a fast finisher. Every Kiwi seems to find the leagues to do Tour of Southland. A Kiwi can save a season with a good Tour of Southland, I think, and I think that's why it's so prestigious.
So we can see here there's a breakaway forming at the front of this race. Matt Zenovich, I think, or it may be Luke McPherson perhaps from the H&J's Outdoor World team, a familiar figure in the front of this bike race, Julian. There's definitely some riders away here. This is looking quite good.
Yeah, there's been a lot of attempts here to try and get off the front, but at 60 odd kilometres into the stage, it looks like we're starting to see an establishment of a lead sort of a group here. And you can see McPherson, the man that's been away for the last few days, he's certainly enjoying being off the front of this race. And back there in the red colours is Fraser Goff.
And here the riders have stopped for what is known as the obligatory pit stop, Julian. It's one of the facets of stage racing. You consume a lot of fluid, you're out there for 4 hours. The cooler nature has to happen.
It certainly does, but you can notice also that half of that peloton has continued on down the road here. That's going to work to the advantage here of the Breakaway group, as things are going to just be a bit upset further back in that main peloton.
Yeah, this is a quite cohesive breakaway. We've seen a lot of these. You can see Luke McPherson, they're all rolling through nicely. There's a bit of a false flat that they're riding along here, so it's going to be quite nice for these riders to all shear off and not have anyone sitting on or disrupting the rhythm of the breakaway. But this is a very, very successful attempt.
So here we have the McCallum's group, of course the tour leaders group here leading the peloton along.
Yes, this is a great shot here. You can see the young Anton O'Connor, the local boy riding for the McCallum's group. This boy's really dropped himself in a baptism of fire, having been in the team with the yellow jersey. This is an education for this kid.
Certainly is. They certainly learn now how to do this team racing. Of course, it's not what they're used to in a lot of the club racing for a lot of these guys here. But as we've heard throughout the week, they've all got certain roles to play.
Yep, this is team racing at its very best. Textbook example here, Julian. The yellow jersey, Ben Hill, he'll be really thinking hard about Blackmount. And you can see here back and behind the Avanti guys, the Avanti racing team. It's quite an interesting concept. It was always going to play out this way, I think, today. But Ben Hill is in control. He's looking good.
So back to the leading group, 2.5 minutes gap on them here as McPherson leads them through. And of course, he's out there due to the fact we've got this man in the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains, the man who now will be the virtual leader on the road, the Englishman, and that's riding very well for Team Cromwell.
This stage is really turning into an exciting stage.
Powerful new Octavia RS. Not your everyday family car. Skoda, simply clever.
Well, it was 24 years ago. I think that equates to about 89, I think I might have bought the van. And as soon as I got it, it went straight into the tour. And that's how I started. When there's a break of, say, 35 to 40 seconds, we go forward with the commissaire and support that, because the team vehicles can't be everywhere. I'd like to do 25 years, which would be next year, and then maybe I might retire and the van might outlive me, so I can't guarantee I'll be able to do that, but just keep driving it while it lasts.
Jeff is a great example of the hundreds of hours that volunteers put into this event every year to ensure that the riders are safe on the road and have a fantastic experience here in Southland.
This is the entry point to the Blackmount stage, the Blackmount hill climb. There's a bit of a false flat along here, and this is starting to get hard. You can see here on the course profile, this is the kicker just before the Blackmount, and these riders will be setting themselves up. Big shot here of the peloton chasing along. There's a wee one-lane bridge coming up, and this is the start of the climb proper up Blackmount.
Morgan Smith there in the Barry Stewart colours team. Of course, this is about his third tour this year. Of course, a bit of a newcomer to it a couple of years ago. He's been based in Australia racing, but as we mentioned earlier on, these two men were in the break here of the day, keeping a close eye on each other, first and second respectively in the King of the Mountains.
And you can see here Luke McPherson is really tailing along here. He's making himself known that he's behind, but he's just riding a tempo. I've been really impressed this year with Luke's riding the Tour of Southland. He's riding it like a veteran, and he's really quite new to cycling. They're starting to kick here for the Preem at the top, and it looks like the Cromwell rider Tom Stewart's going to take the Preem over the top of the Blackmount, but Luke McPherson's putting himself in every position here to try and win this stage.
So Stewart secures for himself 10 points. It's classified as a Cat 1 climb this, depending on the distance and the steepness of the hill. McPherson will pick himself up 6 points. As we look back now to the remnants here of the chasing group, it will no doubt break up as we can see the under 23 leader there, the H&J's outdoor team, keeping a close eye on things, as well as the Pure South.
Yeah, Hayden McCormick is riding a very heady race for the Breeds of Europe, all about plumbing squad. You can see here the shot of the peloton coming over the top of Blackmount. A very fast descent, Julian. There's riders reaching speeds in excess of 80k an hour down the other side of this climb.
They'll be very pleased today to see dry conditions here, because it has been very treacherous indeed in the past with the damp conditions and the winds coming across, but again it's absolutely ideal. But this will be the moment in the stage in which they start to lift the pressure and start to try and shut it down on that leading group.
Yeah, action stations start happening basically off the descent. Once you come off the descent of the Black Mount, it's a fairly flat stretch through to Manapuri, and then from Manapuri you've really got to dig in if this breakaway is still has a decent lead. And we said it would get messy, Julian, on the descent off this climb, and there'll be some fireworks, and here we are. The field is starting to split up in the pursuit of this front group.
Yes, they're certainly starting to splinter all over the place here as they try and get themselves towards the front of the stage here. But the guys out in front continue to be very cohesive. It's really up to these guys now to try and team up together and shut down what is still a decent gap.
Yeah, this is one of the other Englishmen in the front chasing group there, Matthew Holmes, but there's some indecision in the peloton. Here we are back at the front. There's the yellow jersey of Ben Hill. He'll be trying to search for some teammates. Back to the very front of the race, the leader on the road, Luke McPherson from H&J's Outdoor World. Man, this guy is fair motoring along here, eh?
The most combative rider a few days ago in the tour, deciding to go for glory here as he escapes off the front of the group of 7 as they make their way down towards Manapuri.
He's still got a wee way to go, Luke, so he'll be tempoing this as well as putting in as much as he can. There's a bit of a bridge that he has to go across here, which is a wee bit treacherous, but Luke has just come on in this year's tour, and it's going to be very, very exciting to see how he copes over the next few days. This guy is someone to watch.
So chasing groups left, right and centre on the roads here as they try and get themselves through on the last 20 odd kilometres towards the picturesque Te Anau finish here, and you can see a number of teams being represented.
Yeah, there's panic stations in some of these chasing groups. You can see here Team Cromwell, the rider there, and there's 1s and 2s going across. This is Ryan Wills from the Power Net and Fraser Goff. They're trying to get something going at the front, but it's going to be a very, very interesting finish here, Julian.
2 men from the same team now, with Matt Holmes making the junction to join the man from the King of the Mountains title here. So the Team Cromwell team once again placing themselves in a very good position as we scan back to the yellow, the man leading the tour with the main peloton.
So this is going to pan out in a very interesting fashion to see whether or not these groups can get caught. The gap is always ever closing, and we are getting closer and closer to the finish of the stage.
There's certainly an opportunity for this chasing group to get themselves to the front of the stage here, but as you said, Doug, whether or not they're going to put the foot down to do it, as we look back to the remnants of the different parts of the peloton, they've come off the hill now and are starting to join themselves back up to amass into a larger group of around 80 riders.
Yeah, we can see this is the second chasing group forming up just with the yellow jersey group, and there's a lot of Avanti racing team jerseys there. They'll be quite happy to be back at the front. I'm going to be interested to see whether they formulate a cohesive chase to try and get this front breakaway group back and set up a stage finish. There are quite a lot of teams nominated back. Here we are back at the front of the race again, and this breakaway is still coming along very, very nicely.
There's certainly a significant difference in both speed and, as you said, Doug, about how cohesive they are. These guys are rolling through a lot better together. They've looked over their shoulders a few times to see that the guys further back are only about 30 odd seconds here, but they're not going to give it up because it is up to the main chasing bunch to try and shut things down.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough position to be in. Same as this second chase group. They're in no man's lands in some respects, Julian. They're not at the front, they're not in the peloton. What do? You just have to keep going on, don't you?
And based on the distance, we can see the flashing lights up ahead here. The gaps are starting to widen once again here as the main bunch here have started to shut down things a bit, and these three have decided it's time to try and get across. Ryan Wills going down on the inside there in the Power Net colours as we now swing right into Manapuri and the great sight there of the lake here. These 7 riders still in with a serious chance with about 20 kilometres to go.
One factor that will help this chase group, this front group, Julian, is the weather conditions. There's not a huge amount of wind, which is really, really helpful for these guys. Lovely shot there of Lake Manapuri. It's a great spot, but the wind factor will help these guys. They've been out a long time, and the fatigue's going to set in. It's 21 k's to go from Manapuri, and you can see here the second chase group, they're starting to look over their shoulders, having a chat. I think it might be day over for these chaps. They're going to head back to the bunch.
Andy Hagan there, number 6, heading down on the right-hand side. Going to give it a little bit of a nudge, but you're right, Doug. I think they've realised here they've given it that bit of a surge, but they haven't quite been able to make that junction here, so they're going to have to make some decisions.
Here we are with Sam Phipps from the Spraythrow Agri-Vantage team, the only bike racer I've ever seen, Julian, with a one-sided mullet.
There's some interesting distinctive styles amongst some of these riders here, but they've certainly decided it's too much here. The gap opening up to over a minute. And of course, we're getting down to that 30 seconds, Doug, here. But now the 7 out in front, they just haven't given it away. If there's a chance for a victory, and that you've got to take it. It doesn't come around too often.
Here we go. This is back at the front, and we can see the counter-attack starting to come in from the PowerNet squad. There's 5Ks to go. There's going to be some seriously tired legs here, Julian. These guys have had a long race, and a lot of them have been in the breakaways in previous days. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
Ryan Wills is the man that's decided to have a go. Of course, on day one, having a crash up towards Gore, he's bounced back and he's been to the forefront over the last couple of days. So he's now trying to get those colours of PowerNet out in front there as they now start approaching the last remaining kilometres here into Te Anau.
The run into Te Anau, Julian, is actually quite nice. It's quite a wee bit of a downhill run, so the speeds do increase. Hayden McCormick from the Breeds of Europe, All About Plumbing, tucked in nicely there in this front group, but it's going to be a big chase as we see Matt Holmes from Team Cromwell making a desperate bid to get away for the stage finish. He's not got a lot to go. There it is over there, over the other side of the lake, Julian. This is a desperate attempt here.
With about 1.5 kilometres to go, this man is looking very serious for the win. But we see the red colours there. Fraser Goff trying to get across to this man from England who's performed extremely well, as has all of the Team Cromwell team.
Yeah, Fraser Goff is just powering past here, man. Fraser Goff has really put in a big effort to try and win the stage. It's a hard left-hander. There's a couple of judder bumps that you've got to navigate your way over before you get into the stage finish zone. 1K to go, but Fraser Goff has just taken off from the Kia Motors Ascot Park team. This is impressive.
The time trial specialist makes his way down the finishing straight. He's got a gap of about 150 metres. Over the speed hump he goes. Arms are raised to take out the picturesque stage here into Te Anau. It looks like Stuart, the King of the Mountains man, that'll take out second spot, with Rion Nolan securing third very tight, and here comes the man in yellow.
Go Cromwell! Go Cromwell! With about 30k to go, I just followed a guy from PowerNet and rode across to the break and then just smashed it on the front to try and make it stick and helped on to the finish because he's still got GC ambitions.
Yeah, we established a gap pretty quickly and managed to hold it over Black Mountain. Then from Manapuri in it was tailwind and came in just ahead of them, so I was very happy.
The top three on general classification remain the same, but it's Thomas Stewart of the United Kingdom who made the biggest gains today, now only 38 seconds off the potential yellow jersey. A quiet day for the men vying for the Harcourt Sprint Ace, with Jacob Grieve remaining on 56 points from Zenovich and Hambrook. After being off the front all day long and picking up a few more points, Thomas Stewart remains firmly on the front from McPherson and Hill when it comes to the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. McCormick remains in the pink jersey, but Tom Vesey continues to try and eat into his time with a 47-second difference. A mere 3 seconds still separates Gordon McCauley and Justin Stott as they head into the big climb tomorrow. Despite the big efforts today from Team Cromwell and H&J Smith Outdoor, it's Avanti Racing Team that remains the head of the table for the Wednesday Cycles team classification.
Follow the 2014 SBS Bank Tour of Southland all week with full results, live updates, photo galleries and video coverage every day at tourofsouthland.com.